Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about how to make a successful Web3 game. And the disclaimer is I'm a product guy. I'm not some crypto bro. I'm not community guy. I'm not a marketing guy. Most of my strength is in building products. I know how to build products and have repeated making products for a long time, one after another. And for the past 10 years, I've been focusing on business development. I've done a lot of licensing of IPs. I have licensed a lot of games. So that's my area of expertise. So I'm not gonna talk out of my area. Today, it's going to be a product-centric conversation. Okay. Let's talk about this. So in Web3 games, in the era of single-player games, the founder of EA, Trip Hawkins, he's my all-time hero, and he said, sexy, easy to control, easy to learn, and depth. So what that is saying is the graphics has to be attractive. He used the word sexy, and it has to be easy to learn, easy to control, and your control and the visual audio feedback is intuitive. And then once you master the control, there's depth, layers and layers of depth. And you could explain that another way to understand the depth is also epiphanies in storytelling. So you can have different revelations, different epiphanies. Okay, so anyway, that's the traditional single player game. When it comes to online games, the founder of Shanda, the biggest game company, it used to be the biggest game company of Taiwan. They pioneered the world of online gaming in China. And he used also 3 steps: come, stay, pay. So come is to attract players in, either through traditional marketing or traditional promotions, through press releases, through game industry media, journals, or user acquisition. Okay, and the second one is stay, that's retention. The third one is pay, that means payment conversion. So you have to understand, he made that declaration in the dawn of free-to-play, in the dawn of freemium business model. And we've come a long way since then. That's 17 years ago. But I want to point out the sexy, easy to control, depth, and come, stay, pay still holds very well. I need to remind you of this because this conventional wisdom is proven successful throughout the test of time. So I just want to put it out there. It's important that you always think about those terms. Is the game too hard to learn? Does it have enough depth? And the depth also relates to an old word that we use in game industry, which is called replayability. How often can you come back and replay the game? Some games are really fun to play while you play it. So Monument Valley comes to mind. But do I go back and replay the whole thing again? Some people do, but I don't, because once the epiphany, the revelation has been realized, I lose that motivation to go in and try things out for the first time, because I've done that for the first time, and it's not that interesting for me to go back the second time. And for some games that's enough. For some games that's more than enough. But some other games you need to really think about the replayability, because why? Here's a very important concept. The amount of money and time and number of people you use to create content versus how fast the players can consume those content, there's a ratio. If it's 1-to-1, it's not great, but it's much better than you spend a month of time and to make a new level or to make new game mode. The players finish all of your content in 3 days. So that happens a lot. So when that happens, that's a deeper subject. How do you create content that is replayable? while players have new experiences. That's doable, but it requires strategy in the game design. Okay, so I'm gonna start talking about retention. So the first point is retention. Why would the players stay in the game, not go? Why do they come back day after day? Some games survive over 5 years. You know, one of the problems with a lot of GameFi products is that they don't sustain. In fact, very rarely any of them sustain more than 6 months. And this is why I'm so against GameFi, because in the standard of video games, they don't qualify to be good games. So it's important that we make games that are sustainable, so people can come back and come back and come back. Look, the players don't always have to consume the content that you created, because sometimes the new narrative is created by other players. So players do something in the game that creates an event, and the event can be refreshing or surprising to other players. So that kind of design is awesome, by the way, because then game designers don't have to think of everything, don't have to think of all the possible events, all kinds of combinations. And obviously the best setting for that would be MMORPG. We'll talk about that later. So for retention, one way to think about it is when the players go to your game for the very first time, what do they do in the first minute? What do they do in the first 3 minutes? What do they do in the first 5 minutes? You have to keep giving them objectives, keep them busy, keep giving them purpose. And then you reveal, like onion, right? One layer after another, you keep revealing, new objective, new objective, new objectives. There are a lot of different techniques or means you can do this. Some of the Chinese freemium games, they give you a treasure box or mystery box. You won't be able to open it until 3 minutes later, or 5 minutes later, or half an hour later. Then you kind of have to kind of stick around and do other things so that you can open that box, right? And if you log off, that box disappears. So that's kind of crude, but that's the idea. So retention is important. Obviously, longer retentions, like day 3, day 7, that requires very good planning, and 30 days, 100 days, so on and so forth. So always prepare purpose or goals for players to achieve. Sense of achievement is super important in video games. You don't always want to shower them with rewards, shower them with level up, because they will get desensitized. So that has to be done sparingly. And the grinding needs to be meaningful, purposeful, because they're doing it for achieving that purpose. All right, so man, that's a deep subject about retention. I'll stop here. The second one is attractiveness, which is sexy, what Trip Hawkins said. So we got to make sure the graphics looks great. It looks pleasing, and the players can resonate with the aesthetics. And they're 2D games, they're 3D games. But I gotta tell you, of all the VCs, a lot of the people in the crypto space, they have the hard on for 3D games. So I personally think 2D games can equally be profitable and successful. Some 2D games, they look fantastic. But right now, there's that bias in the crypto space that they have the hard on for 3D graphics. And not just 3D graphics, they want Unreal 5, crazy, But at the same time, I gotta tell you, these guys have never made products before. They never published games before. Those kind of graphics, they don't really play that well on mobile devices. It makes your phone really hot, and the battery doesn't last that long. And a lot of older phones don't play very well. And Unreal 5 isn't the best, most compatible 3D engine for mobile phones. So some inexperienced GameFi projects, they just go for Unreal. They think Unreal is the best. Well, you wrote it down in your business plan that you want to address the 5 billion, 5.2 billion gaming demographic, but you don't meet them where they are. You just make games on PC, browser or thick client, but where's your console SKU? Where's your mobile SKU? Because if you want to address the 5 billion players, you gotta meet them where they are. You gotta go to the devices that they're playing those games on. So please don't say something and then you do something else. If you only do Unreal 5 on PC, you're not addressing the 5 billion market. Unless you have consoles or unless you have mobile. And in case you don't know, Unity is more cross-platform or they call it multi-platform. Okay, so that's on the graphics. I won't sit here and tell you which art style is better because there's no standard answer. But in Asia, the players tend to like the Japanese anime style in general. Supercell art style is more universal of the West and East. And in the West, people lean towards realistic looking. The problem with the realism is that you can never achieve true realism. We have not made a game that people could not tell the difference between a game and a movie. Not yet, we're getting there. It's fairly close, but we've been approaching that goal for the past 20 years. So it may take another 20 years to go from 90% to 95%. Just so you know, if you're going for realism, the bar is quite high. I personally really like Metal Gear Solid because that's a realistic cartoony look. And that looks quite good. Because you have to understand after a while the players get, desensitized to the art style and they just need to understand what you're trying to tell them. All right, the next one is depth. Depth is game mechanism. How do they learn better? And the story, and are there layers and layers of stories? And then easy to learn, this is straightforward enough, is the control difficult. How do you make sure the control is applicable across mobile devices and PCs and maybe consoles? It's from touchscreen to joysticks, joypads, and to keyboards or mouse. So the control just needs to be accessible and easy. And if you support crossplay, then you need to make sure that fairness is across the board. And that's not so easy. It's doable, but not so easy. All right, the next point is genres. So are you trying to make a strategy game, MMORPG, which is expensive and takes a long time? Or are you trying to make a MOBA, multiple online player battle arena? Or are you trying to make a card game? A lot of GameFis are doing card games. And you're trying to make a simulation game, farming simulation, or city building, or mining. So all of the above genres that I mentioned they tend to have longer retention. So whatever you're thinking about, I personally think for Web3, you need to pick a game genre that inherently has longer retention. And again, here I wanna mention my definition of Web3 games is that you don't even sense or detect the presence of blockchain. You just use it. The in-game store is also an NFT market, so you can buy and sell NFTs there. And the wallet is built in. And obviously, going from cryptocurrencies to fiat is tricky. But every country, you have the local solutions. So go with that. It's not an easy problem to solve, but people eventually will crack this. And the last one I want to talk about is tokenomics. I leave this to the last one is because you got to have a product to make the tokenomics make sense. And my thesis is this: you got to have a successful game so you have a lot of players. Therefore, when the players earn something through grinding, through getting the loots, other players want to buy it from them. So that's how I see it. I don't believe in game companies paying players so that the players will stay in the game because that's just very Ponzi-like. So yeah, the game has to be successful in order for player commerce to make sense so that players are willing to buy products from each other. All right, that's it. Thank you.